Hey everyone, my name is JJ Paulson. I'm a student entrepreneur and co-founder of the tech startup Perch. I want to invite you for coffee and conversation on our weekly series, Coffee Talks. We're here to showcase the heartbeat of Gainesville's entrepreneurial spirit. I want to give a quick thank you as this series is made possible by Afternoon Roasting and Seven Ashes Productions. So grab your favorite mug, settle in, and let's explore the exciting world of entrepreneurship together. Now let's meet this week's guest.
Welcome, everybody. I'm really excited to be here today to Coffee Talks, where we are brought to you by Afternoon Roasters and also Seven Ashes Production. Today, we are coming to you from Mercury Studios, which is Gainesville's premier studio and premier lounge and recording studio. And we're here with Anna of We Are Neutral, and my name is Pyle, and I'm your host today. So I'm really happy to be with you all, to get to have this conversation, to sip some coffee, and to get to know someone from our Gainesville community. You know, we like to focus on different creatives, different people who are doing things in our community that sometimes we don't know. There's so much happening in Gainesville. I feel like Gainesville is growing a ton, and there's a ton of people doing amazing things, and we feel very lucky that we get to bring people on to get to hear, like, what's your journey been like? Why are you in Gainesville? Because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, all of us that are in Gainesville, I came to Gainesville from New York, and I had a lot of my friends be like, what are you going to do in Gainesville, Florida? And it's a pretty amazing town. So with that, I'd love to hear, Anna, please, you're a Gainesville native.
I am.
So please share with us, like, you're a native. What was it like growing up in Gainesville?
Yeah, so originally my family's from Kentucky, and my dad got a job at the University of Florida when I was 2. And so we moved everything to Gainesville, which to me, in hindsight, I'm just so freaking grateful. That's just such a random life thing that had that not happened, obviously my life would be very, very, very different. So I've been here since, I was 2. Growing up here was amazing. I feel like it had a lot to do. It just felt like places to explore, but also very safe. And then after I graduated high school, I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, got my master's in architecture. And upon graduating, I came right back to Gainesville, which is what happens. I said I wasn't going to do it. I wanted to be an architect in London. But there's something about being raised here and the connections that you make provided me with more opportunities here than I would have in a city where nobody knew me. So I had incredible connections that got me a job working at a firm. So I could get all my 6,000 hours done to be licensed, which is crazy.
Yes, fun.
Yeah, it's like 4 years.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lifelong connections, and that turn into professional connections, and it's just home.
Yeah. It's been home for you since you were young, 2, you said,
2.
right? So,
Yeah.
And then you were in Savannah. Well, you grew up here. You went to Savannah for college, and you were dreaming of London, and then decided to come back to Gainesville. And then, so you were an architect here in Gainesville for how long?
Like 4 years.
Okay. And then you did the architecture thing, and then what made you decide, like, okay, you've invested so much of your life. You just had 6,000 hours to get licensed.
Yep.
And then what happened?
Well, my degree was in sustainable architecture, and I have always been like an environmentalist. Like my parents are not necessarily environmentalists. I feel bad when I say that, but I was 4 or 5 starting to protect trees in the neighborhood. And it's just something that was like very much who I am and not who I was shaped to be. And so my degree was in sustainable architecture, and while the work I was doing was rehabbing old buildings, I was still putting AC units where there weren't ones before. And it just didn't feel completely in line with the purpose and the work that I wanted to do in my life. It was around that time that all of my friends' parents were retiring and they were all doing what they had always wanted to do. They were opening up bookshops. They were like finally doing what their purpose, I just got chills, like what it was that they felt their purpose was that they didn't have the opportunity to do. So I left.
How old are you?
27. And I left the firm and found Jacob Cravey, who is the original founder of We Are Neutral. I kind of took it over around 10 years ago or so, but met with him, and he was basically using math to help calculate carbon emissions and then do the equal and opposite good to kind of basically mathematically balance out what we're doing to the planet. And I just felt like it was such an incredible way to use my math and creative skills in a way that was like actually going to be moving the needle. And it was really, really hard to take like that serious left turn in my career. I mean, I had just got my master's and done all this work, and it was like, am I really just not going to see this career through? And I had a lot of like personal work to do around that. But every single day I was so much happier and felt so much more fulfilled. And my parents were like, well, if this doesn't work, you have a hell of a fallback plan. You can just go be an architect again.
There's a backup plan.
Right.
Yeah.
And 12 years later,
Here you are.
Zero interest still.
So you didn't fall back on your backup plan. What I wanted to highlight a little bit. So you're an architect, and you had this calling of really serving the planet.
Yes.
And it's like, yes, here you are intending to build buildings, and maybe seeing that this isn't necessarily how you want to serve the planet.
Correct.
And how did you meet Jacob?
So I was kind of lost, and Jason Foltz is another Gainesvillian native that I met through growing up, connections and friends, and he does a lot of really important environmental policy work here in Gainesville. I just asked him to go have coffee, and then he introduced me to Jacob, and
Nice.
I had coffee with Jacob, and he hired me on the spot.
So it's like so much can happen over a cup of coffee.
Yep,
then
exactly.
Connect you to someone that may change the entire direction of your life.
Yep.
And so you got to meet Jacob and hear how he was doing this life-changing work.
Yes.
So was it like an automatic, like you heard what he was doing? Well, I heard you say also, so you were using your math skills, using your architecture, things that you learned by becoming an architect to now move it to helping shift things in the planet. When you heard what Jacob was doing, was it just very clear, like, oh, what he's doing, I can help him?
Yes.
Was it like an automatic? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you that know Jacob Cravey, he's a visionary. He's a very inspiring entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur sometimes. And so he had the vision, and I was really able to come in and help with like the structure of the organization, like coming up with the name and creating the website and building a client list and really starting to get the organization in a place to really operate well. And he has since moved on and started other things and gifted me with this organization. And so it's basically been my baby for the last several years. And so it was just a beautiful kind of series of
Events.
organic,
Like
organic
unfolding.
things that happened, and it was just really great. The beginning was hard. I mean, this is 2012, and people really weren't talking about climate change, and businesses definitely didn't have some sort of sustainability plan. And then we're talking about carbon footprints and carbon neutrality. And it's not like we always used to say, like, I wish I was selling shirts, which is like, you know what a shirt is, you either want one or you don't. And we're having to not only explain what we do, how we do it, why it's important. It was not really an easy sell for a really long time. And now in 2024, based on younger generations putting consumer pressure on brands, every single brand has some sort of like net zero by whatever. And it's really our time. So I have really felt the shift now. People are around the block lining up to work with us. And
That's amazing.
we could talk about this for another hour, but I take a lot of pride in We Are Neutral doing things a lot differently.
Yeah.
Some groups, don't necessarily take into account everything in the carbon footprint calculation. Carbon offsets are a whole sketchy thing that are being, a lot of corners are being cut. So not only are we now like the best at what we do, and I think we genuinely fight for it with our hearts. And now we've become a little bit of a watchdog to all the other brands and groups that are doing this. And we're the ones that are saying, like, prove it. How did you do your math? Like,
Nice.
where were those trees planted? Like, are you really carbon neutral? Like, is this just a cool press release?
Because you can see there's, I imagine, copycats and people that want to be doing what you guys are doing, but you guys have been doing this, like you're saying, for so long.
Yeah.
And you guys started with this genuine, not that other people aren't genuine, but you guys started from a place of this genuine desire to serve the planet.
Yes.
And well, that was something that I wanted to, for someone, yes, it's 2024 and there's more people who are aware of carbon neutrality. I would love if you could share with us, like, well, what does it mean to be carbon neutral?
Yeah.
And like, we are neutral in a sense, like, who do you guys intend to serve?
Yeah.
And what do you guys serve?
Yeah. I was thinking about that question. And I think, obviously I serve Mother Earth. I call myself Mother Earth's accountant, where we calculate the pollution associated with businesses, and then we plant enough trees and do enough good to kind of balance out that like debt. And, obviously we're not in really good shape right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so carbon neutrality, it's hard to explain because nothing really is actually carbon neutral. Like, I'm exhaling a greenhouse gas. My body will be emitting greenhouse gases after I die. So carbon neutrality is, again, like the EU just banned the term because it's very misleading. But the idea is that and this is something that I don't think businesses do enough of, but the goal is to reduce your footprint first. Understand your footprint very first. Second, reduce it as much as you possibly can. And we help with that. Then the third and the final thing you do is you bridge the gap from a small footprint to carbon neutral with offsets. So basically, let's say there's X number of metric tons of pollution that you just have to have your business operating, which I totally get. I have a carbon footprint being a human being. I'm not going to, even if I went to go live in a cave, I would still have a carbon footprint. So when you're in that spot, you do additional things above and beyond. So like, I would plant X number of trees to absorb the emissions associated with the last part of my business. And then you're able to call yourself carbon neutral.
So there's really no one on this planet that's carbon neutral.
Without the use of offsets, correct?
Okay, without the offsets. Okay.
Right. So I could theoretically live my life, do everything I'm doing, and then sequester the exact amount of carbon to neutralize. But I'm not really carbon
neutral.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but the work that you do brings you to a place of being more neutral. The work that We Are Neutral does for companies. And do you also work with individuals to help them with their carbon footprint?
We do. And I say, we serve Mother Earth, but our clients are everybody. Every single thing has a carbon footprint. So we work with music festivals, we work with conferences, products, personal lifestyles. We're about to roll out, I'm really excited, a super comprehensive online carbon calculator. We are kind of skeptical of most online carbon calculators because they don't show you how they're doing their math, and they don't include most of the components, and we're just kind of, we're judgy. But we're rolling out a really, really, really thorough lifestyle carbon calculator that takes into account your spending habits, where your money is being invested. A lot of times the money in the bank is being invested in fossil fuels, your diet, your purchases, your home, your travel. So that's going to be how I'm really excited to kind of loop in the personal carbon footprint.
So someone can learn more of like, okay, what I'm doing on a day-to-day is having this effect on Mother Earth.
Exactly. And it gives you opportunities like, hey, here's like the 15 things you can do to reduce your footprint by half. And that's just not common knowledge. I think we all would love to do right by the planet, but we just don't have that sense of scale. We don't know like what we should be doing.
Totally.
And I think if we did, we would do it. I think, my own personal opinion, I feel like big oil has spent a lot of money making sure we don't know what we're supposed to be doing. And they actually coined the term carbon footprint to make sure we felt like it was our fault.
So it's like, well,
they're like,
in a
BP
way, they
is
don't
like,
want you to know
well, they're like,
that,
you
you
need
drive
to bring those bags to the store, little lady.
versus,
yeah, of course you do.
Yeah.
But there's a whole big system with lots of money behind it and lots of politics that are also to blame. So it's a both and. We need to be doing our part, but there's
Yeah.
also a system
there's
in place
companies, corporations that want us to keep doing what we're already doing, that
Exactly.
don't really care to share with us, like, hey, here's how we can also be serving.
Exactly.
And here's how we can also be doing better.
Yeah.
For the planet, because there's
Exactly.
so much already happening that they care more about the money, of course.
Yeah.
I imagine. So,
And I'm seeing a tipping point. I'm a serial optimist, and I am seeing a tipping point where investors are not investing because of climate risks. And so it's happening.
nice.
It's happening.
Well, let's keep saying that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it'll happen. Yes, it's happening. And I mean, we can't deny, I mean, this is what I see in a lot of the younger generations. Like, we can't deny that our planet is being affected by what we're doing.
Right.
And we can deny it for so long until it's like, okay, well, what are some things that I could do as an individual? Like, there's the younger generation is asking that question. Like, okay, what can we be doing differently? And I feel like We Are Neutral is one of those companies that is going to be the voice.
Yeah.
Here's what we can do. Because, like you said, in 2012, 2013, there was crickets. Like, nobody wasn't focused on it, but now there's a lot more people focused, and hopefully you guys get to be the voice to help individuals as well. Because again, it's like, yes, the companies, but also, and that being said, because I know you have a TED Talk where you talk about, like, hey, this is a real thing. Let's pay attention. Let's focus on our Mother Earth. I'd love if you'd be willing to share with us, like, what are, like, maybe a couple things that I as an individual could do. And, we're talking about, we started with, here we are in Gainesville's recording studio, and like, knowing Gainesville is such a beautiful space with so much nature, and it's like, how do we protect Gainesville, right? So I'm wondering, as an individual, what could I do?
Yeah, and the answers, I mean, I think a lot of people talk about reusable cups and reusable bags to the grocery store and all of that stuff, and I absolutely, please do all of those things. I'm not knocking any of that, but I think there's some, like, if you're going to do 3 or 4 big things, one of the biggest things you can do is change your banking to a bank that is making sure that your money is not being invested in fossil fuels, your 401ks, your retirement, all of that normally is sitting in a bank, and that money is just not sitting there waiting for you to come and get it. It's investing in these things. And so I think that's something that is a pretty easy switch. Little plug, Climate First Bank is one of our partners. And they only invest, they only create loans for environmentally good things. So they only give out loans for, like, solar, and all of their money, goes to invest in really important things. A second thing to do, vote. I mean, vote every single topic in your city, every single topic that you can get your hands on. That's a big one. And then a third one is voting with your dollar. That is the thing that I'm seeing that has made the biggest change since I've been in the last 12 years, is that these brands are having to take responsibility for their carbon footprint because their peers are doing it, and they're feeling like environmental peer pressure. And it's because we're not supporting the bad guys hardly anymore. The younger generations are not shopping at these, like, big polluting corporations. And so really thinking about voting with your dollar, buying the smaller brand, not the big brand, buying local, all of that is just, you have no idea the power that has. So those would be my things. People say, like, ride your bike instead of driving, but I have an employee that's helped me realize that there's a accessibility issue for a lot of these things. And so, they aren't able to ride a bike. And so really meeting people where they're at. And I think it's individual for each person. And so that's a part of what we do is we meet with every organization and every individual to see, okay, what does your business run like? What are your operations? What's your staff? What does this logistics look like, so that we can help reduce your footprint in a way that doesn't affect your quality of life or your business. And same with individuals. So that person, I'm not going to recommend riding their bike, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it really is individual for each
sense.
business and each person.
And in a way, like I can imagine, like even as you were saying your employee pointed this out, it's like, it's almost kind of, I can imagine we can become numb to hearing like, oh, go ride your bike, or, change your light bulbs. It's like we've heard something so many times, like do we actually take action on it? And I mean, I've heard, well, the plastic straws. There's some businesses that don't give out plastic straws anymore, and they give out the paper straws, but there's still businesses that still do the plastic straws. And so they're numb to it too. So as an individual, I mean, hearing those three things, like, let's look at my bank. I can take that, hearing that. It's like, okay, what is my bank? And like, how is my bank using my money? I mean, that's a big one.
I didn't even realize that until about 5 years ago. I was like, so sneaky.
Yeah.
I felt like, man.
Well, because you see numbers, and we see our numbers, and it's not just sitting there, it's being used. It's on loan in a way. So how is this institution using my dollars? And the other,
important.
It's huge.
It's really important.
In a way, you're voting by choosing to put your money there.
Yeah.
And what you had said, the other two things is like, okay, go vote, because the people who make laws are impacting our planet.
Yeah.
And then the last one is how we use our dollar bills. It's
exactly.
like, are we spending locally? And I love that you made that a point, because local businesses, I imagine, have a smaller footprint.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about, the main contributors, the main pollution things are, lights being on, flying and driving. So you think about ordering something, how many planes and boats and trucks that thing has to be on to get to you.
So if you have something local, it doesn't have to go anywhere. I mean, well, if something's being produced locally, then there's way less of a footprint.
Exactly.
So if I go,
exactly, and you're not supporting like the big guys.
Yeah, nice. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope that we can all take something and bring it into our day-to-day, because at the end of the day, and I want to highlight again what We Are Neutral is, like, you guys are serving the planet. And you as an individual, you see yourself as a steward of the planet, and we all live on this planet.
Yeah, it's kind of important.
Yeah, just a little bit. And I would love to, before we open up to questions, and for the audiences, if you could share where people can connect with you guys.
Yeah, I was going to say too, another thing that individuals can do in businesses, this is like the main reason we're here, and the main thing we do is to help you understand your footprint. So that's the starting point. Like we always say, you cannot improve anything you can't measure. So really understanding with us, for businesses and individuals, we really get to know your operations. We ask you a bunch of questions, and then we provide you with a carbon footprint. And that comes with a pie chart of like all the different contributors. And it's an aha moment for every single person who thinks that this was the worst thing they did, when really over here it's this. And that really helps aid in behavior change. So my email is anna@weareneutral.com, and all of our social media handles are @weareneutral. Our Instagram is one of the main places that we're very, very loud about our opinions on things. So definitely follow us on Instagram and email me. We'd love to calculate the carbon footprint of your lifestyle or your business. And stay tuned. Hopefully we roll out our really amazing calculator soon, and that will be a really accessible way for people to at least understand their footprint, get tips on ways to reduce it, and then donate to us to plant the trees to offset it.
Awesome. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for engaging with us. And thank you, Anna, so much for sharing what you do in this world. And thank you again to Afternoon Roasting and to 7 Ashes Productions. We're looking forward to our next talk already, and we'll see you guys next time. Yay! Yay!